Hey everybody, it's Lisa from H.E.A.R.T, Florida. We're back again with another one of our inmate interviews, and Pat is here today with us to tell us his story of incarceration. And Pat has a really interesting story to tell. So, without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, this is Pat.
Thank you, Lisa.
Hi, Pat. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know how much work you had to put into being here with us today to share your story. So I'm going to jump right into the questions. Tell us, if you could, tell us a little bit about your younger years and um, ultimately what led to your incarceration.
Actually, as I look back on why and analyze my actions at that time, my first charge I caught was due to boredom more than anything else. I had committed a number of petty minor crimes that the average youth commits every day, like picking up a toy in the mall or shooting at semi trailer with my BB gun. Just a bunch of foolishness these kids do who don't have a real direction in life yet. But the first crime I planned out with a couple of my friends at the time was done out of boredom. We would walk up past school grounds headed to the PJs, and one of us noticed that the music room window was open. We decided to break in and steal the equipment just for the hell of it. Short story shorter, we all got caught and went to WT Detention Center and was charged with burglary and theft. My next charge was auto theft. Called myself for going to sell it. The little fool I was. From there, it all escalated. One of my best friends started pushing dope, crack, for a lieutenant in our hood in '85. I was 12, and him showing me $100 to $150 a day to my small mind was a hell of a temptation. I asked him to hook me up with his boss, and he did. In a matter of days, I was clocking $100, $150 a day profit. Then one day, I bought a little 32 revolver, and life went downhill from there. I started jacking when I was 13 and destroyed myself. I didn't know how to stop.
Pat, tell us, what is the current sentence that you're serving? What were you ultimately sentenced to? If you could share that with us, please.
I'm serving 2 life sentences and 70 years for multiple charges.
Okay, so going a little backwards here, you got in trouble as a juvenile. You spent some time juvenile detention, and then you were later incarcerated again. So tell us about that prior to the 2 life sentences plus 70.
When I was 17, I committed an armed robbery and 2 aggravated assaults with a firearm. I was sentenced to 17 years for armed robbery and assaults. I was given 2 years for violation of probation. And while serving that sentence, I became involved in a riot at Jackson CI. In this incident, I was charged with rioting, 2 batteries on a Leo, a law enforcement officer, and 2 aggravated batteries on a law enforcement officer. For the riot charge, I was sentenced to 30 years. For the 2 batteries, I received 10 years each. And for each of the aggravated batteries, I was sentenced to life. All sentences were to run consecutive, which is wild. During the hearing, my attorney made the statement that I would have probably come out better committing murder. And sad to say, he was probably right. There are many murderers in here right now with less time than I have.
I'm so sorry. I'm just beyond words here. I am so sorry um, that this happened to you.
I was 17 and 19 when the incidents that I'm still serving time for at the age of 48 occurred. I've been in prison over 30 years now, and none of my victims are deceased. And neither of them were truly disfigured as they claim. One of them had a broken nose and the other a broken jaw. When our legislators posed the enhancement statutes, I'm almost positive they did not have in mind for it to be misused as it was on me. I know they didn't intend for someone charged with battery on a law enforcement officer, hitting them with the fist in my case, to spend the remainder of their life from the age of 19 in prison. I could virtually guarantee you they didn't. They'd probably be shocked to hear of my case. And yes, I do believe my actions would be different now than they were 30 years ago.
So now looking back in retrospect, you were a kid, grew up poor, did what a lot of the other kids did. But now that you've spent a large portion of your life incarcerated, when you look back and think about your younger years, your childhood, and when you started committing those crimes at such a young age, how do you view that now? I mean, I'm sure people, would ask if you could go back and change your actions, would you? And knowing what you know now, of course, but how do you view that, all that activity and all the things that you did in your younger years now that you're older and more mature?
As I said, yes, I do believe my actions would be different. It don't take a doctor or a scientist to understand that a person absolutely does mature mentally as they grow older. Look back at some of your own life experiences and some of the Nimrod decisions you made in your youth that you absolutely wouldn't make now. Not only because of the harsh consequences and repercussions of a bad decision, but simply because as we grow older, we appreciate life more. We begin to see our time shared with family and friends as a gift, and it makes us respect the next person's time all that much more. In my teens and early 20s, I stayed on a bad path, on pure dumbness. Now, I haven't had a disciplinary report in over 16 years. Yes, most people do change with the passage of time. Few don't. Ask anyone who knows me through this span of my life. And I guarantee you they say, hell yeah, Pat has changed. And definitely for the better. My whole thought process is just different.
Okay, Pat, a little bit different direction here. I would like to ask you if the gates were to open for you tomorrow, tell us the first three things that you would set out to accomplish.
On some type of mentorship or program to keep kids and young people focused on an early positive life path. But basically, if I could just come home and find a decent job to help take care of my family and live the rest of my life in freedom, full of love and peace, I'd die a blessed man. I feel I've lived a full and complete life. A hard one, but a good one.
Okay, Pat, now that you've had years of experience in the Florida Department of Corrections, and we've talked about, you've grown up, you've matured, and you've learned a lot. Tell us about some things that you see in your observations that could be implemented today inside the prison that could help those just coming into the system or to avoid the system altogether. In your own words, I'd like to hear what things that you've seen and things that you've experienced, how that has helped you see a need for change and what can be changed in our system. We know that is a huge issue right now, so I'd like to hear that in your own words.
That some of the courts are abusing the intent of some of the laws they have passed. The legislators leave too much leeway for misinterpretation in a lot of their statutes, and in some cases, outright manipulation by the courts. My case is a prime example. I think the legislators need to formulate and implement a general punishment code to bring more fairness to the system. As it stands, a person in Jacksonville with the same crime as a person in Tampa, sentence can differ as much as 20 to 30 years. I think the legislators would do best to apply sentences that will help a person rather than punish that person. The right amount of time and conditions can actually help a person get their life together, while too much time can absolutely destroy someone who would have been a benefit to society.
Okay, well, I don't want to take up any more of your time. What you've had to say has been tremendously insightful. But I would like to ask one last question before we end the interview. And in your own words, tell us what you would like our legislators here in Florida to know.
I've been incarcerated since I was a juvenile. I'm now 48 years old, 30 years. And I would like to ask Florida's legislative body to please look into your sentencing statutes and repeal them. They lead to excessive sentencing. Let God into your hearts and mind to do what's right. And I appreciate it very much. God bless.
Well, Pat, that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank you so much for bringing your insight and helping to educate others on many of the issues going on in our Department of Corrections and massive incarceration problem and wrongful conviction and a myriad of issues that many of us are fighting to get changed even as we speak. So I thank you very much for your time. It is very much appreciated, and your insight. And I'm sure when many of us head to Tallahassee for our next legislative session that a lot of what you've had to say here will be on their minds and in their hearts. So again, on behalf of H.E.A.R.T Florida, I thank you for your time and your insight and for your words. So thank you so much, Pat. And I will follow up with you in emails and in touch with your loved ones as well. So please take care and be safe, and know that you are one of the reasons we continue to fight. And we're going to fight until they make it right.
And again, thank you for giving me this time to share this message. I hope it reaches the right hearts and minds out there to help bring a change here in Florida, a change that we really need. Thank you all. God bless.
So thanks again, Pat. Appreciate everything that you've done today. And thanks everybody for tuning in for another episode of From the Heart. We'll be back soon with another one of our inmate stories. So I hope you enjoyed what Pat had to say. Thank you.